Hi guys. In honor of October and what is for many a big horror month, including me, and Halloween at the end of the month, I thought it would be appropriate to show a board game that has a distinct, unique, and definite horror theme. So let me adjust my camera a little bit, get the game, and we'll talk about it. The game is called, I just got it by the way, Horrified. You may recognize some of the folks there. This is actually based upon the Universal monsters, and I'm going to show you why I think this game is pretty cool and a pretty good consideration for somebody looking to get a board game that might be something they'd enjoy playing. In this case, the theme very strongly screams monsters. So yeah. So Universal Monsters. So let's take a look here. I saw this advertised and thought right away, this is something that, yep, cool, already it's cool. As soon as you open up the box, this is what you see. I'll let you pause that and read it. But basically it's a warning. We told you it might be a horrifying experience to play this game. Kind of cool. All right, that's the board. That's the back of the board. So I'll get to the board here in a momentary. After that, we have instructions. And I usually show this stuff, so here you go. That's what the board looks like. You get standees. You also get actual monsters. I've seen these painted. Saw somebody did a video on this and painted it. Looked really cool. Bunch of cards, a bunch of little things to take to keep track of different things depending on which monsters you are facing. There's 60 cards, I think, are in here. Some dice. Here's the board. Tells you how to set it up. Then you've got a variety of characters that you can choose to be. Each one has their own kind of abilities. You've got some items here you can pick up along the way. They go into a black bag and you pick them out. And then you've got the monsters. In this case, there are 6 different monsters, although technically 7, but 2 of them come together. They are the Creature of the Black Lagoon, Dracula, Frankenstein, and the Bride of Frankenstein, the Invisible Man, and the Mummy, and the Wolfman. That should be 7 if you count the Bride of Frankenstein. Now, it says it in here, and I certainly know it, that Frankenstein is the doctor that created the monster, right? But for the sake of this game, and most of us as children, and even today, when I see the Frankenstein monster, or see the title Frankenstein is going to be on television, it certainly reminds me of the monster far more than the doctor. So I'm going to call it the Frankenstein, just Frankenstein. I'm not going to say the Frankenstein monster every time. Speaking of which, let's take a look at some of the figurines. There are 7 miniatures that come with this. We'll start with this one, which should really be recolored, and can be. What you do is you spray paint these with a base paint. There's a Creature from the Black Lagoon. It should be green, right? But you've already got Frankenstein as green, so they wanted to differentiate. And so what I would differentiate is a different color green. Maybe this is more of a moss green, and the other one is more like, I don't know, paler green maybe for Frankenstein and the Bride. Pretty cool, right? I don't know how well you can see that. But that would detail out pretty nicely. But when you spray it, all these little lines and things that are on it start to come out. The little spikes on his back, which you can see there, I think. All those start to come out more. Now let's go to the green. Go to Frankenstein. Got his boot. He's taking a step. You can see the boot's off the ground there. It's a hard thing to try to focus in on that, but it's not easy with my finger there. My finger back here somewhere. Good idea. And I follow up with him in slightly lighter shade is The Bride. I always thought it was a better movie, by the way, The Bride of Frankenstein versus Frankenstein. Both are good. But yeah, I always thought that I brightened it up a little bit. Yeah, brighten up my screen doing that nicely. Werewolf. Best werewolf, of course, Lon Chaney Jr. To me, there's not another one. The Invisible Man. To me, Invisible Man was a pretty scary movie, and well done. His bathrobe with his sunglasses on and so on. And then, of course, The Mummy. And finally, Dracula. Not the Bela Lugosi one, because this one's got ears. I'm sorry, it's not ears. I take it back. That's the cape standing up behind him. Doesn't have ears. Even better. And when you paint that, of course, you paint his face white, you paint his hair dark black, that's going to jump out as exactly what it was meant to be, which is the cape. And then, of course, the back of the cape would be black, and the inside would be red. I'd repaint that red, though, to make it brighter, more fire engine red. This would come out nice, because you've got a white shirt right there, buttons, a tie, all those things would jump out when you paint. And my goal is to paint. I'm going to get a nice set of paints and some paint brushes. They have the really nice tips on them. And paint these dudes up. The only one that doesn't need too much is the Mummy, but I'm probably going to do it anyway. Just because the details will come out nicer once you do that. It's actually pretty cool. So, move on here. Each of the characters that you can be one of 7 characters. Yeah, and I don't know the difference between some of these and others. Other than I can see some of them have 3 actions per turn at the very top there. The Explorer. Most of them have 4. The Scientist has 4. The Archaeologist has 4. Probably great against the Mummy. The Courier has 4. The Inspector has 4. The Professor, probably good against Dracula. And the Mayor, don't know, she's in a wheelchair, but she gets 5 actions. Though it doesn't say what they're, so she didn't have a special action. Everybody else had a special action on their card here. These are pretty thick, by the way. These are thicker than most cardboard would be, so they're going to hold up pretty nicely. And each one of those characters, for instance, here's the Inspector, has one of these standees. Color matches the background, which matches the card, and this shows you where on the map that person would be. There are a bunch of cards. I'll show you those now. There's a couple. I like the looks of these, especially the monster cards. I get that where you can see it good. And it tells you a bunch of stuff at the bottom as far as who it impacts. Another one. Just got another little symbol at the bottom there, but they're simple enough. I just love the old world look of these cards. They look cool. Some have a little bit of color, but for the most part, they're pretty well black and white, which is exactly what I was reminiscent of the Universal. The bag holds all the items. And here's some of the things that are unique to, depending on who's playing. These are all the villain things. Depending on what villain you're playing with. For instance, the coffins. If you're playing against Dracula, you've got to destroy the 4 coffins before you can defeat him. So part of your game is to save the civilians. And they're the ones with the clear bases that are running around. Here's Maria. She would be the one probably that the Frankenstein monster drowned by mistake. Tried to let her float like the flowers that she was throwing out. He was like a little kid. So the game looks really cool. I have not had a chance to play it. I just got it. I just opened it and punched some things out, put it back in the box, and did an unboxing so you could see it. And so it would be, I hate it when everything still needs to be punched. I think you get a better look at it this way. Oh, the items. I should show you maybe 1 or 2 of the items that are in the bag. So whenever you get to pick an item, you reach down in here, and it'll say something. Two shovels for the graveyard. I don't know what that means exactly, but for some monsters you have to have certain things to be able to defeat it or drive it back or whatever it might be. You've got in addition to the black cards, you've got white cards in here too. And this would say, place either Frankenstein or the bride in any space, or move any monster 3 spaces. Either one. So there is, I think there's 20 of those cards, and there's at least 40 of these. Those are the monster cards, which, yeah, I guess they're monster cards. So they generally benefit the monsters. And what else do I want to show you? Oh, the board. The board looks really cool. Let me open that and show it to you. It's got a variety of places on it. Each one is in one of those yellow spaces there that are labeled with black labels on them. Some others that you add, like you can add one here if the Creature of the Black Lagoon is playing, and so on. There's a place for a museum you put down. I think it's in the center there. If you're playing against the Mummy, you have a terror track that starts at 0. If it ever gets to here, the monsters win. If you run out of monster cards, or the black ones, they win. And the conditions for beating the monsters are all different depending on which monsters you're playing. Some have stricter conditions than others. For instance, in the Bride of Frankenstein, you need to get the 2 of them together. Get the 2 of them together, they see eye to eye, they'll run off together. Never had a chance to happen in the movie. As soon as she was created, she was pretty well a target. So they never really were able to peacefully exist. Dracula, you want to kill him with a stake to his heart. So you need a stake. There's stakes in there. Invisible Man, you have to prove that he exists and prove who he is. So once you do that, he's captured. What else? Creature from the Black Lagoon, you have to find out where his lair is. So Wolfman, I think a silver bullet. I think you have to kill him with a silver bullet. Find him first. So this looks really cool. So I haven't read all the directions yet, but I will be reading those. I think this is the kind of game that somebody who is a fan of horror, and especially a fan of the Universal monsters, can get into. The theme is cool. The gameplay looks pretty simple, but yet complicated enough where an adult would enjoy it. This is not an easy one game from what I've heard. You're going to play it. You play it cooperatively, which means we all play together to beat the monster. Either we all win together or we lose together. There's no one player wins, and for a lot of people, they'll like that. If you come from you've got very competitive people in your family, in the group you play with, you can convince them to play a game like this. You don't have to worry about them, being egotistical, and the only thing you have to worry about here is somebody telling you what to do, which, somebody wants to win. So, no, don't do that, do this. And I would say in that case, you tell the person, okay, that's 1. I give you this 1, but don't do it again. Let me play my guy. If I want help, I'll ask. Otherwise, let me make my own moves. And if we lose, we lose. It's that simple. We lose, we lose. Maybe we won't, maybe we'll win. Anyway, Horrified looks really good. Pretty good production value on this. The box isn't real sturdy, but it's sturdy enough. This will hold up nicely than the old boxes used to. And these days, everybody's taking pretty good care of their board. You're not just throwing them around like they used to. So that's Horrified. Sells for about $40. Amazon you pick it up for about $35, give or take. It goes out of printing, it'll go up higher when they run low on stock. Put out by Ravensburger Games. Ravensburger. 1 to 5 players, ages 10 and up. So yeah, little kids can play it. Takes about an hour to play, and you can play it solo. So if you're the only one, you can play it, and you can range the difficulty from easy, play just against 1 monster, to play against 2, 3, or 4. They're recommending more than 4. You won't win. Probably won't win with 4. But certainly you'll have less of a chance with 4. And with 1 person playing, I would think 2 would be hard enough. 2 monsters. And I say that because, especially one is Frankenstein and the Bride, then you've got 2 monsters, and you really have 3 when you have those 2. They recommend starting out with the Creature from the Black Lagoon and Dracula in your first game. and then move to the other ones which are harder. I think Invisible Man's supposed to be the hardest. There's just a lot to do to prove that he's there. But again, I haven't done the game. I just watched it played for a little bit on a video, and even that was a while ago. So I recommend Horrified for someone who wants to get into board gaming, or is already into board gaming. Maybe just wants something for Halloween to be able to play every Halloween, or even other times. It's Horrified. Universal Monsters from Ravensburger. Okay, guys. Comments appreciated below. Have you played anything like this? I remember a game years ago you could play it and you turn the lights on and it glowed in the dark. I think it had ghosts and things. I don't remember what it was called anymore. We had it. We were kids, but I can't remember the name. It was a little bit scary. All right, that's it. Hopefully you enjoyed the video and take care.